and exciting. It's exciting to work with you and to talk about something that I think is dear to your heart, abundance, and this idea of creating and manifesting. And in terms of what's out there, Nick, and all of the messages that we get around creating abundance, how do you see the focus of today's session?
Very practically, I think that it's imperative that what you and I bring forward are pearls that ideally can be embraced and used and incorporated into our lives. We are works in process, right? You and I, we've been in this insight dance for a long time. And the thing that keeps me coming back to insight, the thing that I so embrace about this work is the practicality of it. And, you and I spoke offline in advance of this, and I just love the riff of what we were talking about because it was so practical and it was tactical and strategic. So that's my intention for today, to really give tactical, strategic takeaways that people can use today, tomorrow, for the rest of their life.
Absolutely. And as we go into the new year, we obviously know that many of you are looking at 2020 going, I want to take it to the next level in 2021. And so, we're going to start the conversation off. I'm going to put a topic on the table around creating what we want. Now, remember, we say this in every insight training: you do not get what you want. You always get who you are being. So you don't get what you want. You get who you're being. The problem is that most people, Nick, do not actually have conscious awareness of how they're really showing up. Mm. There's a disconnect between how they're being and the way they think they're being. Do you see that?
Yeah, but I think we haven't been educated to really clarify for ourselves first what we want. What is the definition of abundance for you? It took me a long time to really get clear, as opposed to in comparison to others, what's my abundance and what makes me happy and what makes me feel fulfilled. And as I got in touch with that, then I could start implementing plans to go get it. And I think that's what's critical in the equation is the definition, call it a soul search, call it whatever you want, but sit in a chair, put a piece of paper in front of you and a pen, whatever that writing instrument is, and start to write down, what does it mean to me beyond anybody else?
I love it. And, the thing I think that when I look at you, Nick, I think there's a stat that you don't even think about that I see in you so clearly. And that is that you are so comfortable with yourself. Like you just are okay with you. And that is the precursor to really knowing what you wanted to create, because it was coming from a very connected place. And if you're on this Zoom right now, you could be, wanting more than you've created. So think about it. If you want to have, do, be more, there may be this missing link. And I'd like to use the analogy of a GPS, device. Your phone has a GPS. It's the maps program. It always tells you where to go, right? So the question that I have for you is, what would happen if I thought I was in North Hollywood and I was going to take the freeway to the beaches in Santa Monica? That would be moving kind of west, right? And I would be going to the beach from North Hollywood. But so that would be great. My map would tell me how to get there. But what if I was not in North Hollywood? What if I was in Colorado? Or if I was in Mexico? Wouldn't I have some problems if I kept saying I'm in North Hollywood? And when we were talking, Nick, we were talking about this kind of self-assessment that people have to make in order to really, and I think you made this somehow along the line. You got real about you, because I know you were acting at one point. And so what do you think about that, Nick, in terms of how did you come into alignment with yourself, and what are any recommendations you have about going from where you think you are to where you really are?
Yeah, well, if we live in a fantasy, we're going to stay in a fantasy. And I think the analogy of Colorado versus North Hollywood, Colorado's, the reality, and North Hollywood's the fantasy about getting where you want to go. But It starts with, when I got away from I have to do something and I choose to do something, I empowered myself to give myself a better chance of creating it. Because if I have to do something, I'm putting an external pressure on myself that just zaps my energy. But when I choose to go to stay on your analogy to Santa Monica, the first thing that I just use the maps tool to help me with my intention of getting to Santa Monica, but I needed to plug in Santa Monica. So what I'm suggesting to everybody is choose to plug in what that abundance reality is that you want first and foremost, beyond the fantasy, beyond the comparison to anybody else, and say, this resonates inside of me, because that's the true North Star to what we're talking about. So that's how I'd respond to what that question is.
I love what you just said. So when you said something that, if you're in Colorado, but you think you're in North Hollywood, you're not in reality. So let's just really point out, step one, and along with really aligning with your vision and saying, I really, in my heart, it's about going to Santa Monica. It's about going to this new place. I see it. I feel it. It's in me. You got to know where you are. And so if you want something and you're in the way, there's a way of creating abundance, which is, I'm just going to pretend I'm there. Even if I'm going to ignore my reality, I'm just going to focus on creating it, which is nothing wrong with changing your mindset. But there is something off when we don't really truly embrace where we really are. Just say, here's where I really am. Like I worked a lot with artists, and they would say that their material was great, or their performance, they were such great talent. And I would look at their work and it wouldn't be good. And it was like, how come they don't know that they're not as good as they think they are? Mm. See, I don't experience that with you, Nick. I have never, and I've known you for 40 years. I've never heard you say something that was false about your abilities or where you were. I mean, maybe you have to other people, but just not to me.
Well, we haven't spent enough time together. No. So it starts with a foundation. Everything is, how solid is the foundation? If I accept where I am today, I start to create a solid foundation. I start to create, I may not like where I am, but at least I own it. That's it. This is, would I like to be somewhere else? Yeah, I'd love to be somewhere else. And we're going to talk about how to take it from here and get to there. But we got to get honest with ourselves and say, if they're judgments, if they're any of those things, I look at them as energy zappers. They're taking away, they're crumbling the foundation from which we can stand on. And so first, I love that. Acceptance.
The acceptance of where we are. So let's all start there. If you're on the call, I want you to just kind of assess your vision, your dream, that what you want to have, do, be. I want you to start with, really, where am I? And the degree to which you can see and know the reality of where you really are right now is the beginning of your abundance. That's just a truth. That's a truth.
That's it. That's the beginning of your abundance, accepting where you are. And you can use that puts a wonderful light on it. This is the beginning of my abundance, is accepting where I am. I hope that resonates with people, because it evaporates the judgments, and it evaporates the negative focus, and we give ourselves more compassion in the moment. God knows we need that.
Well, see, you're saying one of the other things that stops abundance, which is a lot of times people don't want to assess accurately where they are because of their self-judgment about where they are. Mm. So we want you to put that aside and just say, look, I've heard people say, man, I'm 40 years old and I don't have any money saved. That's pathetic. It's like they're making this message to themselves that they should not be that person, which is where you then are going to end up in Colorado thinking you're in North Hollywood. That's how it starts, because you're judging yourself. You can't get clarity. So for clarity to happen, there needs to be the absence of judgment and acceptance for where we are, so we can actually start. I think most of you have a vision. I've seen a lot of people that, some of you don't, but a lot of people kind of know, hey, I'd like to have more money. I want to live in a better place. I'd like to be coaching or expressing. It's just that they're not starting with this first step. So step one is that.
And David, I would add this, when we talk about where do we want to go, more and more people are talking about the why of where we want to go. Why is that important? And the more they're like two hands embracing each other. One is the acceptance of where we are and really getting clear of why we want to go where we want to go, why that dynamic of abundance is important to us, because that keeps us connected to it beyond the slings and the arrows and the stubbing of toes and all of those things. We need that connection that's deeper than the materiality of it that keeps us connected. So I would say that's really point number 2 to getting clear on that.
Yeah, and I'm seeing in the chat, one of our, founding facilitators, Russell Bishop, is just illuminating the idea that is that symbols, which is what we want to get something, but the experience is what we're really looking for. Mm-hmm. And so here's one thing I think stops it. And we talked about this, Nick. We have seen a lot of incredibly successful people in life. Talk to me about ego, and I want to say it in this context. What what people are willing to sacrifice to create what they want?
Yeah.
And how sometimes the ego plays into that, because I think a lot of people, when they have a vision from their ego, it's different than when they have a vision from their heart.
Right. And I think, well, I know, because I've experienced it for myself, when I get okay with where I am in this moment, I can much more clearly identify what the strengths that I have amassed that I can then use to my advantage to move forward. If I'm in my ego and I'm thinking, yeah, I can do that and I can do that, but if we know in our heart of hearts we don't believe we can do it, it ain't happening. So if we can shed the ego to say, I stink at that. I'm not good at that today. But I realize I'm going to need to be better at that. So if I'm going to truly propel myself, then I can go for it and I can start to bring in the resources that are available to me in honesty and in my humility and in my authenticity to say, hey, listen, I stink at this, but I need that aspect. You have that. Can you help me? Ego gives us it stops us from asking for genuine help. And it just doesn't serve. So
that's incredible. That's incredible. I just love it, Nick. I mean, I want you, he just broke it down, because see, people that are creating a lot of success actually have the assessment and awareness of their skills and strengths, but they also know, hey, this is a weakness. Mm-hmm. Let me get an accountant for that, or let me get a website developer. Right. Have you ever seen the person that is working on a project all by themselves for 20 years? Anybody seen that guy, that woman? And it's just, you could tell this is just never going to happen, because they have not done the assessment. Now, listen, once you let go of the ego, right? Nick broke down something that I just want to illuminate. A lot of people think abundance is one dynamic, like wealth. I'm going to give you a different definition of abundance. I consider abundance to be the flow in harmony between asking, giving, and receiving. Now, most people in our world today have done a couple of things that gets them off track. They've done a lot of self-judgment about where they should be. They put other people before themselves and become imbalanced givers. And then they want abundance. There's a breakdown. It's never going to happen that way, right?
Well, I think there's also a great opportunity so oftentimes we don't ask for what we want because we don't know what we're going to give in return for it. We go, well, I can't ask David for help because I don't have anything to offer David. And so David's going to say no, and then I'm back to square one. So we've just self-sabotaged ourselves out of the gate. But if I go, you know what? If right now my greatest resource is my loving and my ability to offer up that loving, and I don't know what it looks like yet, but I may just say, David, I need your help on something. You are so good in front of people. And with where I want to go, I got to get better at that. And I don't know what I can offer you right now other than my loving, but do you have 5 minutes to help me, give me 3 pearls that I could then start to use to help get me to where I think I need to go, that you're already there. That's a clean, authentic, honest communication. And that is a resource that speaks to both the ask and also the offer of what we
Yeah,
have.
because when you ask me like that, Nick, from your heart, I really can't say no. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have asked me for help in certain ways where it's like, on one level, it would be like, man, that's going to take a lot of my time. But if it's coming from the heart, it's very hard to say no. Now, I tell everyone that I work with around this idea is that asking doesn't mean you're going to receive it from the person you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
Asking means you've identified a place that isn't, you don't have it. You want your quote universe out there to point you in the right direction. So if I ask Nick, man, I haven't found a way to make money. You're incredible at making money. You know my skill sets. What do you think? Right? That's going to open a door. It's also going to get me closer to reality.
Well, it's also it's an affirmation. I'm putting my ass on the line here, and I'm willing to expose myself and say, I want something. I know why I want it. And that's the energy that lifts me up to make the ask and gets my courage up. And then I'm open to feedback, and I'm open to say, I'm not good at that, but you are. What could I do to assist myself? And I think that starts to create that momentum. It's about momentum. Abundance is momentum on so many levels, but we got to get out of our own way enough to say, I'm going to honestly say, this is who I am, vulnerably, nakedly, whatever that is. But I really want this, because I want what I want more than the shackles of my inhibitions, or what are they going to think of me, all that shit that serves no purpose anymore. Let's be done with that. Can we graduate from that, please?
You know, that's amazing. And what I'd love in the chat for all of you that are with us that can chat, if you're driving, don't worry about it. But in the chat, what I want you to do is put like an honest assessment of, like, you know, if you were to say to yourself, this is what I need to ask for. This is what I, David, need support with in my world, in my universe. Now, remember, it doesn't matter who you're asking. If you're asking, and that energy of asking is, remember what I said, you don't get what you want. You get who you're being. When you ask, you are going to be now directing yourself into receiving that. The key to asking, of course, is not judging yourself. So in the chat, if I say, write what you want, right, you are now being vulnerable. A lot of people go, well, I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to reveal to you what I want, because
that's your ego.
That's your ego and your self-judgment,
right?
Which are the reasons, like when I said Nick got very comfortable with himself. I'm not saying Nick doesn't judge himself. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying when he got comfortable with himself, he was able to start to kind of be okay with saying, hey, I suck at that, you know.
But what this also does, David, this exercise gives people perhaps the first awareness of what it is they truly want and what that definition of abundance is for them. I'm seeing all sorts of things coming across the chat right now, and loving and abundance and healing and support creating videos. The more tangible, the more defined it is, and less etheric it is, the more we can start to take the steps to go get it. So if I want more loving, I want more touching, what do I do to create those things? I get out of ethereal and I get very tangible, practical. And so once you have that ask, then I would ask a second ask underneath that of myself to say, okay, what does that manifestation look like? What does that look like physically on this level that I now can direct my energy and my focus to start creating more of?
I love it. And as you're writing it in the chat, remember, you are beginning your journey, okay? So the journey of just saying, here's what I want more of is like, okay, I'm now assessing myself as feeling kind of lonely. And I would like touch, I would like connection, right? So I'm recognizing that I'm in the lonely people's club. Okay. I got no skills on how to not be lonely. So I need help. Now, Nick, have you ever seen anybody create the kind of abundance we're talking about by themselves?
No, I don't think we're all connected. We all need each other. And I think that's the beautiful ultimate dynamic of what we do as human beings. The fact that the more we reach out, the more we engage, the more we interact with each other, the more we create a greater collective abundance, and the infinite comes forward.
So we're going to have to then start to, so the brain is interesting. The way the brain works, as soon as you start to give it a clear communication of what you're looking for, there's a part of your brain called the reticular activator, which is in the base of your spine of your brain, right back here. And it basically is a filter for what you want. It basically filters in and out information. And when we have this part of us operating unconsciously 99% of the time. So unconsciously, we're always filtering, because if we got everything in our environment that reached through our brain to our senses, our visual, touch, seeing, smelling, we would be overwhelmed. So we're always filtering ourselves. And what science started discovering is that filter was based on our belief systems, based on what we believed about ourselves. And the brain was literally showing us only what we believed. So
what we could deal with, what we could understand or comprehend
as reality, right?
Right. I comprehend that I'm not a good person. So look at all the stuff that gets thrown at me. See, I get to prove myself right.
I get evidence of what
right.
I believe. Now, so if you're noticing the evidence in your world is up until now, it's been, I don't seem to have enough money, or I always just have enough money and I'm always trying to get the next just enough money, or I have real problems. This is probably because of what your brain is showing you, not what reality is. What your real reality may be is that you have a belief system that you picked up somewhere along the way that doesn't serve you anymore. Like once you recognize, I want more than I have created, you are at a point, a turning point where you can actually shift the belief, because you're starting to question that this could be a different reality. And that is beautiful.
Yeah. So let's stay on money for a moment. I don't have enough money. So is the belief system, could there be an association that, well, I'm not good with money?
Yeah.
I don't understand money. So we are the stewards of what we have, right? So let's use money. I'm a steward of money. If I'm a good steward, I'm responsible about where I spend my money, how I spend my money. I understand how much money I have. I understand what the pulls on me on a monthly basis are, of where the money needs to go in order to maintain the lifestyle that I have currently, which then begs another question: am I living a lifestyle beyond the amount of money that
which is back to reality? Back to reality.
Right, exactly. So all of these things play in, but what's the common denominator there? It's the awareness of myself or money. And if you literally took it literally and said, I'm not good with money, I don't know how to spend money, I'm going to have someone, my partner, whomever, say, listen, you're in charge of my money at this point. Till I become a better steward of it, now I'm asking you for help. I need to, will you help me with a budget? Will you help me with this? And then you keep the money. You better trust this person. But it's an example.
It's an example of saying, look, I recognize now consciously that my belief system around money is not showing me, my brain isn't showing me the better options. It's not showing me opportunity. It's not showing me how to save, because I kind of had software that I wrote back in 1979 or 1990 around money that I suck, or that, whatever that was. So what we're telling you is part of the shift into abundance. It's also recognizing, now that you know where you want to go, now that you're giving yourself an honest self-assessment, you may notice that you have told yourself some messages that don't serve you, that have become concretized and become beliefs. And our job now is to kind of understand that the brain doesn't really care what you believe. You see whatever it is you believe. So part of the shift is to see, you can change beliefs the way Nick just described. You can go, look, my money beliefs are obviously not great. let me get someone good with money in my life, whether I pay for it or I'm lucky enough to have a wife like that or whatever, and let me get feedback and start to realize what people that are good at money are doing. It will change
Right.
my belief system.
And then what if you all had an extra $100 right now? Based on your belief about money, what would you do with that $100? Would you blow it? Would you go, wow? Or would you say, oh, if money, and I understand more about compounding interest, and I understand that assets, and I understand that long-term wealth is generated, that first $100, that next $100, go buy a stock, go buy something that changes the dynamic of how you become a steward of that newfound money that comes into you, and be responsible about how you apply it towards more of what the abundance that you want in your life. It's that simple, it's that immediate. And then you start to build that new momentum pattern and the associated belief pattern of affirmation behind it.
Yeah, that's powerful. And, so what we're saying is that beliefs around what you're looking to create, because abundance is not just money, and we'll talk more about it,
Mhm.
but what you're looking to create, when you want to change the belief, you have to actually get a new vision. And then when you have this new belief or awareness, hey, what I have isn't working, you can change the belief either through inside out, which is where in an insight training, for example, we will focus on, working on shifting what we believe about ourselves over a period of days. But I've seen people do what Nick did, change their habits through a commitment. Like the decision is like this: I'm sick of it. So you are changing beliefs a little bit because you go, I'm sick of that old thing.
Mhm.
Then you do a new behavior, and that new behavior can help you change the belief.
Right. And then you build on that new behavior, and that becomes the new foundation. And at each step along the way, be ready to ask for more help. You're never going to stop asking for help. I'm creating a dynamic that is so far beyond my experience, my expertise, um, and or my capacity, and yet I've got a very clear vision of what I want to create. It deals with a $3.4 trillion industry called commercial real estate right now. We're building a platform, putting $100 million fund behind it. I don't know anything about this stuff other than I have a great idea in my mind, and I'm checking that. We've pivoted 7 times since what I thought was the first great idea to now where we are today. I Because I keep asking, because I keep saying, what do you think about this idea? And I get feedback, and I'm open beyond my ego to say, just because they don't like the way it is, the way I present something, if you don't like it, my ego has a choice to say, well, you're wrong. Or I can go, oh, maybe they're smarter than me, and maybe I should listen to them.
Mm.
But now we're creating something that's dynamic. The right people are coming in to play with me. It's an exquisite, exciting time in my life because that's how I experience abundance. It's in the stretch, it's in the exploration, it's in the experience of building relationships with people and creating something dynamic and wonderful that truly makes an impact on the application of this new product. That's how I love living a life. But it starts with, I don't know everything and I don't need to know everything.
I was just going to say that, Nick. It's just really awesome that you can only manage $100 million vision or $1 billion vision by learning the first step, which is that I know where I am. I really know who I am. I am not pretending. I was making a movie as a director, is about a $12 million movie. And I had all these young stars like James Franco and Aaron Paul were in the movie. And I had a director of photography that was literally, I think he just hated me. I mean, I would have to say, but the producer produced this movie, My Cousin Vinny, and won an Academy Award. So I was at this point in my beingness. I was an insight facilitator. I understood a lot. One thing that I was not really willing to confront was if I'm true to myself and other people who I respect totally disagree.
Mm.
And so I got into a situation where I let this guy stay around, and the movie was made, it looked good. This guy really ruined the movie. I let the guy ruin the movie.
Mm.
And it didn't make the kind of money it needed to for me not to go into what I call director jail. I went into director jail, and I look back at it and I said, the reason I went into jail was because David was not comfortable enough with himself to say, this director of photography, even though the Academy Award winning producer who knows way more than me wants this guy, is not for me. Mm. And you hired me to be true to me so I could get this movie where it needs to go. And any level of life, that level, that ability to really say, wow, my truth here needs to be shared. I don't know it all, but I also know that this isn't it.
Yeah.
Not easy for people. And a lot of people will like set their own abundance back because of their inability.
But I think it comes down to the more we get in touch with the why of why we're doing this, and to the point, you're on your why. I know I'm on my why when it's more important than anything that's outside of that. Like, I'm going to sacrifice you because you're not in alignment with my why, and I'm going to need to have the courage to deal with whatever what I put in motion to push myself away from you, and possibly sacrifice the seduction of a short-term gain for the bigger, fuller, deeply rooted, connected why. I gotta be willing to make that sacrifice. Early on in this project, I needed to let someone go, and it hurt. And they demonstrated who they were, and it wasn't in alignment with where we're going. And it cost money to buy them out because I wanted to be in my integrity to honor that. But I got my shares back, and I lost what I considered to be the toxicity that was permeating what we were doing, and I would not stand for it. And whether the whole thing falls apart, that moment, that decision needed to take place because that was in alignment with my why, that was in alignment with my integrity. And then I did my best to act from a place of integrity, and we worked it out. It was very amicable. That tells me that we were on.
Yeah, and then that all started, Nick, with your ability to start. See, like, once again, you're at the $100 million project level, right? You're at the level now where you get that has to be a decision to make. For a lot of us, and a lot of you that are on this Zoom and you're looking to create big things, sometimes, what you're looking at is, what do you have to give up that is uncomfortable to give up? My daughter yesterday made a decision on a writing project. She's a young writer and got into a show that was good for 4 months. Then it became toxic. And she did not want to confront it, or she didn't want to say anything, but she ended up having, I don't want to keep doing this conversation with the person she's working with. And that person was really upset. Even more toxicity came out. But she's out of it now. But the level of the difficulty for her to do that was very high. Yeah. And I'm saying, it's like, that's part of creating what you want, is letting go of things. And the reason you're holding on to those things is because of emotional ties, beliefs, incorrect thinking that you have to have this, and you haven't let go of it for a reason, is my point. And when you let go of it, you're going to feel something that you don't want to feel.
Right. Well, also, you oftentimes in my past, I haven't been willing to let go of something because I wasn't sure what was out there behind it. And I didn't have faith in myself that if I let this go, something better would show up. So I'll deal with this and I'll suck it up, as opposed to saying, who knows what's going to happen beyond this, but this ain't it. And let me free myself up for this so I can hopefully see something better on the horizon. And it shows up every single time beyond my constraints.
I love that, Nick. And that is, I want to tell everyone, this is the truth. I think we're on a truth here. All right. The truth is that when it's not lining up and this isn't working, this person's not a person to be working with, everything else really doesn't matter. If you want to create success, you got to let it go. You got to move on. And I'm just telling you, it's going to be in an area that is a challenge for you. It's always comes into that area that you're not strong in yet. And I'm going to just recommend that to create that next level of abundance. Because you look, I made $300,000 on that movie. But if that movie was a success, I would have been making $1 million on my next movie. And to get to the next level of abundance, David needed to be able to say, you got to go. I love you, but you got to go. And even if I'm neutral about you, you have to go. And a lot of us, I see people dragging around, and think of it like this. Marianne Somerville, one of our facilitators, talked about the idea that you want more. But if I fill my arms with all of this stuff, right? I got all this stuff, right? I really want more abundance, right? I want more. I got my hands full. I don't have any room. And often the piece is missing is because of something you need to let go so it can come in.
That's a great leap of faith. It's a great leap of faith. And I would encourage anybody that's, that dark night of the soul where it's like, I don't know that I can let this go. I would ask the question, well, are you in your joy? Are you in that abundance that you wanted to create for yourself? And be ready for the answer. Because if the answer is no, you're not going to be supported to go get what you want because you're not supporting yourself. You see, until we support ourselves and we put ourselves out there, do we give others the chance to rally to our aid and our support to help us? Because think about the last time you helped someone, you felt probably better about helping them than they felt with what you gave them, because that's how our hearts, when they're open and expanded, work. And if you can trust that enough to receive that from others, you're then going to be that much more empowered to then give it away. And for those of us that have trouble receiving, look at it from the perspective that, well, if I receive this, then I can give that much more and I can get back into my comfort zone. But I'm going to need to receive a little bit. Okay, I'll do that because I see where I would love this all to go. And I see the collective of it all.
And so think about the beingness that we have when we are unwilling to let go of what we know isn't working, but there's all these emotional reasons to hang on. Think about how we're being, because remember what I said, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. So if I am afraid to say, this person's not working, I need to replace it, underneath that, my belief could be something like, I'm not good enough to handle this, to make a change like that and win, like Nick just described as something like that, right? So then I'm going to end up creating, I'm not good enough in this project just because I'm letting that beingness run me. But if I then say, you gotta go, and I just want to work this out with you because we're not working well together, it's not right for my vision, or I've got to make this change. What I'm saying is I trust myself. I have the answers and I don't need others. I can trust my own vision, which is what Nick's been coming from in this project. So he trusts himself to pivot 7 times, let go of someone, because he keeps coming back to his inner connection to, is that lining up or is it not lining up? So I love what I'm hearing, Nick. Let me ask you a question. This dynamic, I do think there are people, and I find that most people are over givers. That imbalance, I mean, it's awesome to give, but what do you think when I say over giver?
Well, I think there's if we're out of balance, we're going to break down. We're going to get sick. We're going to, in the times that I've gotten physically sick, it's because I've overextended myself and I haven't been in balance. The flow of abundance is a giving and receiving. And I go back to this idea of embracing what my resources are, being really true with what those are and what value they can offer. See, one of my great values is my enthusiasm. When I get behind something, I can't contain myself. We're working on the Insight website and we're working on the whole marketing campaign for Insight. And I'm inspired because we're a collective of loving hearts that truly want something better. We want to expand the message of what is inside. And we all bring our unique talents, but we realize that's not enough. You talked about it earlier. And so I am working with these two wonderful young guys, and they're geniuses in my opinion in marketing, and I've experienced them, so I trust them. And we brought them in, and they have just blossomed what we're doing. And anybody that's staying close to Insight will see that as it evolves, and it's close. And Rachel's on this call, and she's probably smiling because there she is. It's good stuff. But that comes because we have an idea, and we say, this is what the vision is of what we'd like, but I don't know, I don't have all the answers. And we work as a collective, and Joey and Heidi, and we're all in a room together. We're going, well, what do we want to do about that? And that question gives the opportunity for assistance to come in. So the question is part of receiving. Are you courageous enough to ask the question of, I don't know what I need in this moment, but I know where I want to go. Help. And that to me is a very powerful demonstration of being able to receive.
Yeah, and then I think asking just is a key for all of you givers as you go into the abundance, and you move towards your goals. You might want to, if you really are stuck, you might want to, get some feedback from some people around you that will be honest with you, and just say, hey, I'm looking to create something. Where am I really? And can you just, I know, like, the one thing we'll tell all of you is that, almost all of us can create and manifest. If you're on this call, you could create tremendous abundance. I'm not just saying money. It depends on what works for you. Abundance can be health. Abundance can be happiness. Abundance could be opportunities, and they're all around us, but seeing those opportunities could be abundance. I want to talk more about different ideas of abundance, but what I want to say is this: many of you have got to ask to trigger the receiving, and that is going to be uncomfortable for a person that is not feeling abundant. There's a lot of self-judgment about asking, and we do an exercise in Insight where I ask people to ask for what they want, and I can't tell you how challenging it is for some people to ask for help, ask for assistance. But then when they do, and they realize that assistance isn't personal. Like, assistance is like, you might be asking me, I may say no, but the next person says yes. And that's fine. Doesn't matter where it comes from. And so it's a breakthrough to ask. And many of you that could be, but once again, have you ever had anyone ask, but their ask was unclear, and what they wanted was unclear, and it was messy? So you can't just ask. You got to do these other steps. You got to have that vision line. You know what I'm saying, Nick?
Yeah, you've got to have a clear intention of what you want and why you want it. And that's an internal search. That's an internal exercise. I sat down the other morning and I created Nick's 2021, and it starts as a mind map. These are the important things that I want in my life. Then I break it down from there. I drill down into one of those initial circles, and I flesh that circle out. And these are all the things that have great meaning to me. And then I break them down literally into a daily timesheet. And then lastly, I make sure I'm honoring all of those dynamics. But in this, I'm sacrificing all of those things that are vague, nebulous, and are not in alignment with what I'm trying to create. And that's how my mind works. That's not the absolute for everybody, but that's what serves me. But it took me the time to figure out what works for me best, to create the mechanisms to support me in realizing the abundance that I want to realize. And
Let
that's
me ask you
just that
something.
monetary.
I want
Yeah.
Nick, just to clarify, were you always like that? Is that natural to you, or
No,
did you develop that?
I developed it. I developed it because I wanted it bad enough. And I realized I don't know what it is that I don't know how to get it, but I started to understand and taste what I wanted to realize. And the intention versus method, exercise, that David Allen has talked about and Russ Bishop's talked about, that's in Insight. These are not, proprietary ideas. These are universal consciousness. So let's all take advantage of it. But it started with, all right, if I want that specific, if I want to be a scratch golfer, I better get out on the range a lot. I can't just fantasize a scratch golfer, because golf is a game that will show me all too ugly that, Nick, you are in Colorado.
Yeah, you need some more
You want to
practice,
be in
brother.
North Hollywood.
Well, here's the thing. That's why Jeremy says, if I ask for rain, will I get it? And that's like what you just said. It's like, hey, at the end of it all, everybody, the way to create clearly is you start from the inside out, and you get that assessment on where you really are. If you were to strip it all down and be totally honest, and you could just end up saying something like, my expenses are way more than I can really afford. And it's been a freaking struggle to do it. And it's taken and zapping my energy and, blah, blah, blah. That honest statement we often won't even get to for a while. And I keep choosing to buy things I can't afford because I want to feel better about myself, because I really don't feel great about myself. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel good enough about myself in order to get out of this rut. That honest assessment could be where I start my abundance.
Please, everyone, start there. If you get nothing else out of this, just get honest with yourself of where you are in this moment, because from there you can build upon it. You can start to say, I got chinks in my armor right here, and list them all, not in judgment, just in observation, that these are the things that are keeping me from greater abundance than what I want. And health is abundance number one, because with the health, you get the energy to then go create what your manifestation that makes you happy.
What I love is a couple of things that you just said, Nick, and I want us all to maybe do this as an exercise for creating 2021. Maybe what we can all do, not only do we want that honest self-assessment, when you're doing this mind map, do a mind map of yourself first. Like, where are you strong and where are you weak right now? And then line that up with what you kind of want to move into. Do I want to be a coach? How many people have you heard say they want to be a life coach? How many people are actually making money as life coaches? Because the bar to have a life coach in a pandemic is real high, right? So write your assessment so that you can really get a real honest look at your strengths and weakness, and then what you're moving into will require potentially the development of some of those weaknesses or support.
And I really want to be clear that a weakness is not a deficiency. A weakness, look at it as an inexperience. I'm just not experienced in that. I'm inexperienced at making money. It's not a weakness, it's just an inexperience. Because when you change the energetic of it, you then can start to walk into that room and go, okay, there's work to be done here, but it's not insurmountable. It's not like I have to lift 5,000 pound dumbbells right now. I got to lift a 10-pound dumbbell, but I'll get to it. That change, support yourself in your mindset.
I love that. And look, I believe firmly that we don't have anything that we don't need. We all have everything we need to create what we want. However, if you want something that requires skills you haven't developed, either you're going to develop them or you're going to get help, assistance.
Or and it's not that important to you to do it.
Yeah, or it's not important.
That'd be okay.
Exactly. Get to the truth there. And I know people that have a dream and they really, when I look at it, I go, I don't think that's going to happen. But I don't say it to them. But have we ever seen those people?
Not today. Not where you are right now, but it could.
Yeah, I've run into a lot of them like, that doesn't seem likely at all. But they are not. So, this is really powerful work. I want to just mention some other things that are abundant. So think about it. Someone said this tithing, which is giving 10% of your income to an organization that is where you receive your blessings from. It could be a church, it could be whatever. But the act of giving 10% away is incredibly powerful. The act of giving is incredibly powerful. When you give, what are you being? Think about it. If I get $1,000, I give 100 to someone or to an organization. And what am I saying? Remember, you don't get what you want, you get who you're being. What am I being? Well, if I'm giving it joyfully, I'm really saying I have more than I need. Now,
And
here's the
there's
truth.
more on the way.
And there's more on the way.
This isn't the end. It is a flow. It'll keep coming.
Yeah,
Like
I'm not worried about
creating more of this.
Yes. And the thing is, though, remember this, if I gave that same money and I'm like, well, I'm supposed to tithe and it's supposed to create abundance for me, but I really hate giving my money away because I'm worried. I might as well not give, Nick, right?
Right. And Russell just said it, I saw in the chat, any amount is the affirmation towards changing that habitual habit pattern. It pushes us into expansion. I'm expanding with a dime, a thin dime, but it's heading in the right direction.
That's why, a lot of times I'll feel, you ever notice you walking out of almost every place and someone's there asking for money. And I kind of have a funny relationship with that because sometimes I'm like, can I just get into Whole Foods and out without, a whole giving journey? But at the end of the day, I really, so when I'm not in abundance around it, I actually don't give because I don't want to give in the have to space. But most of the time, I really just say, wow, there's an opportunity for me to help and give. And LA if you live in LA, you'll have chances every hour. So I just want to put out abundance and prosperity, riches for all, caring, sharing, forgiveness is abundance. Forgiveness of the past, letting go of the past. And then wouldn't it be abundance and never worry about the future? Wouldn't that be amazing? What if I could tell you that your children would all be healthy and blessed and abundant their whole life? Would that be abundance? Think about what it all is. So yes, money's on that list because we live in this world. And I want you to really get clear about what pieces, experiences of abundance really resonate for you, because it could be very powerful. If you got the health piece right, that might open up the money piece, but it might not happen until the health piece is
And
right.
there was something I would add to this. It happens in the timing that it happens in. And as I trust myself to keep moving forward and I demonstrate that I move forward, the things that show up as I'm ready for them and as they can help my greater good, those show up in those timings. And as I stay in my trusting that I believe that there is greater support waiting for me as I step forward into it, it helps with the impatience, because I can be a very impatient person. I'm known as the master of unrealistic expectation by those who have worked with me in the companies that I've created. And I smile at it and I do my best to measure it, but I also know that there's no tomorrow. It's what are we going to do today? And so it is a balancing act in that, but there is a level of trust that if you're feeling impatient on something, if it's not happening fast enough, here's the question I would ask, and I would encourage you all to ask yourselves. Have I done everything I can do today to move the ball forward? And if the answer is yes, then I go, this has been a good day, because I'm now waiting on other people. And if I need to follow up with them tomorrow, I will. But I give everyone the dignity of their process, and I allow that for myself. But I also measure my own speed by, am I accountable for my actions? Have I done everything that I can do this day? And if I do, I go, great, it's a great day, we'll pick it up tomorrow. And if I haven't, I know what my next step is in this day.
That's awesome. Well, I just want to go over one thing, then I'm going to bring in Gabriella or Irene to tell us what's coming up next. But so just to review, we want you to do that personal self-assessment, right? And really get clear where you're at. What city are you in? Where are you on? What street are you on? And then, of course, as you start to go towards what you want, set a clear intention, write it down, make sure it's connected to your heart, not your ego, right? And then the journey of, asking, giving, receiving, that cycle, that flow of abundance is important. Each of those words may have a different meaning for us. And then, of course, what are you willing to let go of? What are you willing to sacrifice? And what are you willing to give? So we love you guys very much. Any last words, Nick, before we kick it back to Insight?
I think that was a great summation.
All right. We love you all. Let's whoever's jumping on, tell us what's coming up in Insight.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Thank you, Nick. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So give me 1 second. And we have a couple of upcoming events in the new year in January. And the first one that's coming up is Insight Ignite, which is a 2-part seminar. And we've really dedicated a lot of time into what's going to serve the community during this time. I know a lot of us have been spending so much time on Zoom. So we're doing this in a 2-part bite-sized seminar. So the first day on the 16th is 4 hours, and then the 23rd is 5 hours. And we're going to get to go over just the principles and the teachings of Insight, and it's going to be facilitated by David. And we do have a special right now. So the pricing is typically $200, but for the holiday, we have a $50 special, so you don't want to miss out. Go ahead and go over to our website and you can register there. And then, 1 second. And then the next one that we have, and actually before I go on to Insight 2, I just wanted to say on Insight Ignite that it is open to everybody. You don't have to be a graduate of Insight. So if you have any friends, or if you're new, if this is your first time, today was your first time participating in an Insight event, we invite you to join us for Insight Ignite. And Insight 2 is for our Insight 1 grads. We had an amazing Insight 2 online experience in September with our grad community. And a lot of you have been asking us for months, when are you going to do Insight 2 online? Can we do Insight 2 online? So here it is. The opportunity is available from February 17th to the 21st. You can register for $500 early bird tuition. And if anybody needs tuition assistance, you can always reach out to us. We are happy to support. We don't ever want anyone to miss out on an opportunity because of finance, and abundance is what we talked about today. So go ahead and take advantage of that opportunity. And thank you all so much for joining us today.
And I just wanted to add, thank you, David and Nick, for sharing your amazing gifts with all of us. You know, for somebody who works closely with both of you, I am amazed at what I learn every time I participate with you and you share these gifts. So, you know, people are raving about you in the chat, which is not surprising because you have really given folks a lot to look at in going on to 2021. And I also just want to say, David's been instrumental in designing Insight Ignite, and I actually think it could assist all of us in taking our next step in creating 2021 in a way that we want. So if you're willing to spend that extra 9 hours with us, I think you're going to be really happy. You want to add anything, David, on that?
You know, I think it's actually a perfect extension to, I don't know if, oh yeah, there I am. It's actually a perfect extension to what we've been talking about today, the Insight Ignite. And we wanted to make a training that was much more accessible for people in today's world where we're all on Zooms all the time. And the Insight 1 is 40 hours. It's just so hard for people that we wanted to create something that would ignite people's hearts and their vision, but would also be something we could continue to offer until we get out of this COVID period and get new people seeing what we have, as well as offering something our grads would love. So I think you all will really appreciate it. And you know, you can give us $200 if you have it, because you know that helps, or you can take it for $50 because it's an intro seminar. So anything that works for you, we'd love to have you there with us.
All right. So have a safe and wonderful new year, and we'll see you at our next opportunity to come together.
God bless you all.
God bless you all.